Welcome to the Wellness for Women show, where we talk about life, weight loss and everything in between. I'm Faye Caseman, founder of the AAA Way Life and Weight Loss Programme, and I'm here to help you put together the pieces of life and weight loss for one last time. This is an episode of the Wellness for Women show, filmed live in the free Facebook group. How to stay on course with your weight loss despite being triggered. So in today's show, I want to tell you a little story. Yes, I do. So I was coaching somebody the other week with regards to evening snacking and getting triggered to eat. And I thought that it would be a good topic to cover in a little bit more detail. And as usual, the coach's name is Jane, and a bit of a backstory about Jane. So Jane is a highly successful professional woman. She has a husband, a couple of kiddies, and family time is very important to them. So often they spend the evenings together watching TV and having family time and other family pursuits. Jane has been working on her evening eating for some time, and she would like to tidy it up because she feels that this could be where would really help her weight loss. And so she wanted to identify why the overeating was happening. And so Jane messaged me the other week, basically asking me to point her in the right direction for some resources within the membership and also to provide some coaching. So are you ready to hear Jane's story? Let me know. Let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a yes in the chat if you are ready to hear the rest of the story. And if usual, or as usual, if you want the show notes, leave me a hashtag show notes. And if you want the details to the free weight loss program, leave me a hashtag food freedom and I will shoot those over. And so for those who don't know me and why I'm waffling on, I am Faye Caseman, creator of the AAA Way Weight Loss Program, where I help women find sustainable weight loss by ditching traditional diet methods and teaching my AAA women how they can craft their own unique, joyful and sustainable weight loss journey with just some simple daily steps. And so if you want to know more about the membership, then let me know. So without further ado, Jane, let's go back to Jane. So Jane told me that what she had noticed was that when she was watching TV with her family, they tend to go and get some snacks from the kitchen. So she watched her son go get a bowl of ice cream, and then her daughter went to get a chocolate bar. And Jane identified that she was having thoughts such as, that looks good. I fancy a bit of that. And so Jane started to feel hungry, and so she ate. And Jane was concerned that this eating in the evening could impact her weight loss, and so she wanted to figure it out. So how do you think that Jane worked on this? So what actually is going on here for Jane is all about the thoughts. It's the thoughts that are leading her to the eating. So did you spot that? Maybe let me know in the chat if that's something that you noticed. And because Jane had been triggered. So Jane has been working on this for a little while. She knows what to look out for and to recognize that she needed a bit of assistance. And that's okay, because even as a coach, I still get stuck from time to time and I still need to get coached. And, we're human at the end of the day. Our brains work a certain way and we need a little bit of assistance sometimes. And so as a coach, my job is to hold up the mirror in front of you so you can see what is happening. So I can walk alongside you whilst you identify the areas that you want to work on and work with you to find solutions that fit your life and help you to stay accountable. And so this is what I did. I held up the mirror for Jane. And so what was actually happening here, like I said, was Jane's thoughts were ultimately creating a feeling, the feeling of desire. And as I identified in the show that I did on the 5 E's of eating, let me know if you need the link for that, there are a number of reasons that we eat. So a quick reminder of those, they are for energy, they're ingrained, so your habits, emotional, because we're feeling happy or sad or anything else in between, enforced, so where you are feeling compelled to, whether that be by your job or somebody else, and then there's empty eating, so fog eating. And I think that really, when I was writing this out, I think I perhaps missed one. So I'm going to change it to the 6 E's of eating next time I do that show. And I'm going to add in environmental. And so this is where you are impacted by your surroundings. So I had them in ingrained, but I'm going to separate them out. I think that's where they sit better. And so in Jane's case, what was happening is there was some emotional eating going on there because she was creating the desire. There was some environmental eating because she was she was surrounded by people who were eating. And there was some ingrained eating at play because this is typically what happens when they sit as a family. So it's a habit. Her body's primed, and it's just something that can happen when it comes up. And so so Jane has been triggered. So let's walk through it. So like I say, Jane is in familiar surroundings. The family often snack in front of the TV. And so it's not surprising, you know, many families do this, and you may have other similar patterns, not necessarily just with a family. But when you're trying to work on your weight loss, it's really important to identify where you are being triggered, because it can impact how you're then showing up for your goals in the moment. So Jane's brain, that's a bit too rhymey for my words, at the end of the day is primed to be looking out for food at this time of night because it's what's always happened. And plus she'll have had a busy day because she's a professional woman with a busy job. And so her bandwidth is lower. And so it makes perfect sense, really, that she's going to find urges come at this time because she's receiving cues internally and externally that set her up for this moment. So, you know, what are those cues? What are the triggers? So she's seeing the food. So that's the starting thing. So she's getting eye hunger ultimately. So her brain on seeing the food clocks the food, and it triggers the seafood diet. So we all joke about, you know, well, I'm on the seafood diet, but actually, you know, your visuals do actually play quite a bit of a part in eating and, you know, what you think and feel about them. You know, it's a real thing. And so that then led to a thought of, that looks good. She might have smelt the food, you know, so she's then got a bit of nose hunger going on. So that smells good. You know, there's thoughts like that smells good. She might even have been able to have almost tasted the food at that point. Who hasn't looked at some food, smelt the food and practically tasted it, which led to the thought, I fancy a bit of that. And the combination of these factors are all just subliminally floating around in Jane's brain, and they'll be coming in and out, and that's just typically what happens. And each one of them ultimately, let's say, each one of those thoughts is leading to an emotion of desire, which can then start a physical chain reaction in her body. And so her brain then goes, righto, I know what happens now. It's what we always do. We eat. I best tell stomach to get ready. And that's where the ingrained eating comes in, because your habit brain's kicking in. And so the brain sends the signal. It releases the hormone ghrelin to tell the stomach that there's food about. We might be getting hungry. What out, lads? It might be some food coming down the channel. And so that actually then gave her a physical feeling of hunger. And so then Jane has another thought. I'm hungry. I should eat. Brain again is getting ready, starting to send little signals to the rest of the body. Legs, get ready. We could be walking soon. Heart, start pumping. The legs are going to need you. Arms, you'll be up soon. Don't forget, you're going to need to open the fridge. Mouth, you better start salivating. And so Jane would have been getting more and more fidgety and struggling, you know, finding it harder to concentrate the more that these thoughts started to come in. So it's no wonder that we eat right in these circumstances. Literally every fibre of your being almost is telling you that that's what you are supposed to be doing. The reality of it is, though, is that it came on so quickly, it has to have been faux hunger and an urge, which then, if you act on it, leads to an overeat. So an overeat in my world is anything where you eat something that your body doesn't need, and so it doesn't matter, or if it's something that your body doesn't need or more than it needs. So it doesn't matter what you're eating. So technically you could overeat on carrots. If you are not genuinely, if your body is not in need of food for energy and to sustain itself, then chances are it's one of those other E's of eating that's coming into it. And the risk to your short-term weight loss goals, if you're eating carrots, of course, is quite low. So I do appreciate that some people, when they are triggered in this circumstance, may like to have a list of healthier snacks that they might go to. The only thing that I would say with that is that it is a method. It's something that you can use, but it is a bit like sticking a Band-Aid on it, because you're not really solving the problem, which is that you're still getting triggered. And so then eventually you can start to feel restricted, because it's all of a sudden it's like, I don't want to eat carrots anymore, carrot sticks and whatever else we might eat. So this is why, ladies, listening to your mind, body and soul is absolutely critical for success and certainly sustainable weight loss. It's also where the self-coaching comes in that I teach as part of my program, because sometimes you have to check in with yourself and ask yourself, are those signals that you are receiving in those messages, are they really true? So if you were to pop over onto my personal profile, you would also see, for example, that I posted earlier with regards to an example from my own life. So at one point in my life, I did the Whole30. So if you're not familiar with it, it is a very heavy elimination diet. Basically, just look at the list of things that you can't have. And one of them was pops and sodas and Diet Coke. And at the time, my body somehow miraculously survived on a couple of Diet Cokes and a couple of coffees a day. But I decided to go all in for the 30 days. I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And basically, I just remember this one day where I sat in the office at work, and I'd probably been doing the Whole30 for a few weeks, and somebody opened a can of Diet Coke behind me, and no word of a lie, my head practically snapped itself, because I literally went, and I turned because I'd heard it. I'd instantly got triggered just by that sound. And I remember it very clearly, how triggering it was. And I was just like, I was literally like, I've got to have that Diet Coke just because I'd heard it. So I know the power of how our minds and our bodies and all of that can fit together. And that's what we have to check in on sometimes. And then when we do that, that's when we can start to build trust in ourselves, and when we can start to really find proper food freedom, which is something that dieting doesn't give us. Now, anyway, going back to Jane. So Jane did eat on this particular occasion. And the next thing to watch out for is what then happens. So it would be very easy for Jane to then get into judgment over this, declare herself a failure, say that she's never going to lose weight, that she's annoyed with herself, that she's blown it. You know, who hasn't had these thoughts when we've gone off plan or eaten more than we should, or, you know, gone for the effort diet instead of obviously doing what it is that we were looking to do in whatever diet that it is that you're following. But the thing is that judgment is what gets you stuck. It doesn't help you to move forward. It just keeps you stuck in the past, rehashing it, going over and over and over. And this is also where the suffering comes into it. So a big part of my program is I want you to be losing weight in a more joyful way, you know, letting go of this suffering, letting go of the beat downs. And so what you need to do then is you need to step into your wiser self. And this is where, as part of the program, I teach you how you can gather awareness. And part of that in the AAA way is I give my ladies what I call the Curious and Kind assessment, which basically gives it helps my ladies to work through things factually, so that they can then step into action and try out different things, so that they can either remove the triggers for next time, reduce them, or you know, make them less strong, basically, and or they can reach out for coaching, which is what Jane did. Okay, so does any of this sound familiar to you? Does this come up for you? Do you realize that we're getting triggered, and why we're getting triggered, and how we're getting triggered? I actually think that once I had been a dieter for so many years, like 20 years, I didn't know any of this. And once I knew this, I was just like, oh God, it makes so much sense. And now that when I knew what it was, and the more that I gathered awareness about my own triggers and everything like that, the more I could actually step in and solve it. I was no longer just along for the ride and wishing that I could lose weight this week. I was actually able to take some proper tangible action. And it wasn't just about what I was putting in my mouth, which was all I'd been taught through previous diets. Anyway, try not to get on my soapbox too much about diets. So anyway, the benefits of dealing with triggers. So there are many benefits to dealing with the triggers. So first and foremost, it can help you to maintain your healthy eating habits. So if you know what your triggers are, you can be proactive in avoiding them or dealing with them in a way that doesn't involve food. And it's important because it can help you stay on track with your weight loss goals. Additionally, it can help you to feel more in control of your eating habits and life in general. It is what can help you to find food and life freedom as you move away from dieting and the restriction that you can feel from being on a diet. You can finally feel back in control of your mind and body and food, rather than feeling like food and food choices constantly control you. And also finally dealing with triggers can also improve your general overall mental and emotional well-being, because again, once you start to take control of those eating habits, you're less likely to feel stressed and anxious about food, which ultimately will lead to a more positive outlook on life, which then knocks into other areas. So dealing with your triggers, though, not necessarily always easy, but it is very much worth the work. By taking time to identify your triggers, find ways of dealing with them, you can, like I say, make more significant progress on your journey. So let me know in the chat, what are some of the things that trigger you to eat? How do you currently deal with them? Share with us, make a post, share with me what are your thoughts and experiences, or if you're a bit shy, then message me. I would love to know. It is about taking the information that I'm giving in these sessions and really thinking about how that applies to you, and that's how you can then use all of the material that I put out there, and it's all in the learning context. There's over 30 videos now for you to go and watch and learn some of these things. And ultimately, it is about you. You are unique, and we all have different triggers and different things that lead us to eat. So for me, I noticed that time is a big one. I'm a clock eater. When I want to avoid work that I don't want to do, being in my kitchen, I can practically guarantee that if I go to my kitchen, I will start to feel hunger pains, even though I'm not hungry because I've just eaten. Eating out, and longer days at work. For some of you, it might be a certain location. It might be the kitchen, might be the office. Some people have an eating chair or the eating sofa. For others, it might be being around certain people, so family and friends, or Pam from accounts giving you the donuts. It might be smells, tastes, and other triggers for your appetite, or it might be a combination. But no matter what they are, like I say, important to find a way of dealing with them. So otherwise you run the risk of letting them control you, whereas this is all about taking back control for yourself. So what tips have I got you? What tips have I got for staying on track despite being triggered? So I say, as a dieter who no doubt is used to restricting, you may feel the need to avoid your triggers. Maybe you want to maybe you're thinking about stopping buying certain foods, going cold turkey. Right, that's it. I'm never having soda. I'm cutting down on pop and candy and chocolate and all these things. I know I say it every week, but I'm in a few weight loss forums, and it's just like, somebody posted the other day about how, oh my God, I've had a burger for the first time in a month. I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to do this. It's about identifying all of these things. That is somebody who's got a difficult relationship with food if you're that concerned about eating a burger when you've not had one for a month. And the thing with that is that she's probably knuckled her way through that whole month wanting it and craving it, and that's why she ended up having it, because she was restricting herself. Maybe that you want to start not going to certain locations. Maybe you get a bit nervous about going out for meals and meeting up with friends because there's going to be food in the room, but how would it be if we could get rid of some of that anxiety around food? Food is just food. It is a neutral thing until we put a feeling to it, until we put a thought to it, which then leads to our feelings. So I would, however, like say, if you are thinking of eliminating anything, cutting things, avoiding things, all those kind of things, I would just encourage you to check in with yourself and check in on the reasons. So if it is because you do not trust yourself, you don't feel that you've got the willpower, then know that you can work on this, and you do not have to restrict so heavily, and you can find food and life freedom, and I can help you with that. Going cold turkey, trying to knuckle your way through it, is often not the best answer in the long term, because ultimately you will feel restricted, lead to more urges and more quits, and that's what impacts your weight loss at the end of the day. But if you are making a conscious choice for you and your body, because you know that that's what it wants and needs, or you've been medically advised to do it, that's different. And then if you need mindset help to work on that, then I can help with that too. Another approach is, however, mindful eating. So with a program such as mine, the AAA Way, where you gather awareness, you take action steps, and you work on your accountability, and you start to learn to trust yourself around food, to work on yourself, to work on your relationship with food so that you don't get triggered as much. Or if you do, you know how to deal with it. So you're building your own unique system, and that's where long-lasting weight loss comes in. And this is what I've done ultimately. And it honestly just takes a few simple steps per day. And plus also it's a system for life, because naturally things change in our body. So again, you know, what used to work perhaps pre-children, pre being menopausal or perimenopausal, or before a health diagnosis, might not work anymore. Or maybe your environmental circumstances change, so therefore the triggers that you used to have are different now. And that's the kind of thing that, again, traditional dieting doesn't help you to work on. And so you can stay stuck if you only have one method. Whereas with a system like the mindful eating, you basically, you adapt it to you, mind, body and soul. Okay, next bit. The importance of mind ninjery. So when you're working on your triggers, you will mess up. Just like Jane, you'll still get triggered and you will still overeat. And the key is that you need to find a way to be able to keep working on that so that they get less and less, or easier and easier to deal with. And the key, as I said earlier, is to let go of judgment. And this is where the mind injury comes in. So for those who haven't seen previous live, mind injury is what I call mindset work. I like to think of them as ninjas, because your thoughts just come in and they're quite subtle, like ninjas, and you don't know that they're there. They're just bubbling away, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Ah!" and they come out, and they do when you least expect them. But likewise, you can be a mind ninja back, and you can look to combat those. So it's working on your thoughts around the process of figuring it out, your thoughts on you when you mess up, and how your thoughts on how you can keep going when you might feel like you don't want to. That's going to be the key. And the first step in that is acceptance. So this doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean tolerating, but it's just giving yourself a break, not putting yourself into the usual beat downs that, again, we've been used to as dieters over and over, feeling like we're failing all the time. Whereas actually the key is to fail forward, but to take that information, learn from it, and change your habits. And that, again, is where the sustainable weight loss comes in, and taking control of it's so much more empowering, taking control of your own mind, your own body. And it's what makes the journey more joyful, because you just cut out all of that suffering that can happen. So those are my tips. So quick roundup for you. So no matter what your triggers are, like I say, important to work on them. Keep working on them. I can't emphasize that enough. Otherwise you run the risk of food controlling your life, and it does not have to. And so for your homework, why not get to know your triggers? What can you do to overcome them with curiosity and kindness? How can you set yourself up for success? And how can you work on releasing judgment and finding more joy in the process? Because that's what I think are all key things in this scenario. Anyway, that brings me to an end. I hope that you found the video useful. So again, as usual, give me a thumbs up. Keep watching every week. I will be back next week, 8:30. If you don't want to miss when I'm going live or a free resource, pop on over to the AAA Way website and sign up for the newsletter. Drop me a DM if you can't be bothered to do that, and just say newsletter with your email address, and I'll pop you into my system. And I notify you then basically that I'm going live, and also there's a newsletter and other information that comes out to help you on your journey. And if you are, quick reminder, if you are ready to find sustainable weight loss, leave me a hashtag food freedom, and I will send you information over with regards to the membership program. And yeah, other than that, I hope you have a fantastic week. I'm always available in the DMs. I would love for you to post. Let me know how you're getting on. You know, what is it that you're working on right now? And let's see how we can help each other out as a community. And I am going to love you and leave you. And I will see you all next week. Bye for now. Thanks for listening. And don't forget, if you want to boost your life and weight loss the AAA way, check out the relevant links for today's show in the description. Speak soon.